guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Eurovision 2025's Closest Qualification Battle.
There are 5 different songs competing for one single spot in the final of Eurovision
close?
next month. These range from nightmare-esque tributes to dead space dogs, to traditional folk songs, to a man named Parg that everyone on my Discord server has nicknamed Garg because he kind of looks like me. Personally, I don't see it. In the eyes of the betting odds, these songs have all a roughly equivalent chance of making it to the final. The problem is, there is only space for one. Have all a roughly equivalent.
So these are the countries that may or may not make it?
They're all fighting for one spot, I guess.
Oh.
I mean, for me, it's between Denmark and Ireland. I really don't think Latvia, Armenia, or Serbia is making it.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
Denmark, I like the song. Not that I like,
But then she was so...
but I don't think she's just her performance is just not
I
good.
don't know.
Now, like a party, a song is a little silly, but I mean, it's a little entertaining. So I would give the
You
edge
don't
to.
think Latvia's gonna make it?
Oh,
I feel
hell
like the
no.
fighting chances...
Who's listening to that song? It's a whole no. I honestly, the way the ranking stands right now, I think that's what's gonna turn out.
I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
Chance of making it to the final. The problem is, there is only space for one. Today, we are going to go through what is shaping up to be one of the most competitive battles for a single final spot that we've seen in several.
Now, maybe Armenia might take it, but because the thing with Armenia is, the song is cool. I don't have anything against the song.
It has so much staging to it.
It's just based on, the favorites that if you react to, people don't like it. So
Years. I'm going to give you some idea of how each of these countries can make it into that final spot, as well as who I think is the favorite to do it. Quickly, before we start with the aforementioned Garg, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel.
Outfit, the leg is working,
No.
and you have some backups.
no, she needs more stage presence that she doesn't have.
As well, if you enjoy it, and you can
She
find.
just doesn't move on the stage.
Yeah, but that was because her foot was broken.
We just watched her last week or something. She still didn't move. What? So her foot is broken. She sprained an ankle. She didn't break a leg.
All of my socials in the description. As well as that, you can also find details on how to support the channel financially. Without further ado, let's look at the 5 players in this fight to the death. The first one is Parg. He's representing Armenia with his song Survivor. I'm a survivor. Poor Parg.
He's good. He's good. It's just surprisingly people don't vibing with it. I don't know why.
Has been on the end of quite a few jokes on this channel, ranging from the quality of the national final performance to
Can
some
you
of
say
the
that
lyrics
song's a little
of his.
bit political? Given the history of Armenia, saying I'm a survivor. If you want to
No,
look at it.
reaching.
Song. That said, we've talked enough
I know
about
the
I'm a
history
survivor,
now.
stay alive, I'm in my
the
zone
historical
in past
thing.
videos. So today I'm going to try and look at it in a more positive light. Let's talk about the potential strengths and try and plot out this route to the final. This is a pretty bombastic song, and it's kind of rock adjacent, much in the way that Imagine Dragons was in the mid-2010s. It's not necessarily up my alley, and I was initially very pessimistic. But because of the indicators that we've had since that national final performance, I think we can increasingly put that to one side and look at the newer information that's more relevant. The first and biggest one here is just how many people have been surprised by this song's performance at the Eurovision pre-parties. There were low expectations from Parg going into this, but in general, people seem to have been pretty impressed. With a better production
I
here,
felt
it
like he always
immediately
kept up with that energy. I'm not surprised with Armenia's terms of stage presence and performance.
I don't know.
Looking at the video, his live performance,
The
I
only
need more
thing
to see.
live, in Armenia when we did it, his singing wasn't too good. But
Yeah.
caveat, nobody seemed to have been good. So I think it was more like the system, the broadcaster than him. But maybe.
sounded much better, and the same will probably be true in Basel as well. In addition, there aren't really any other rock songs in this semi-final, so it stands out. That gives it a distinct and clear group of voters that nobody else is really catering to. If this can impress them enough, then we might see it go through on the back of them. As a performer as well, Parg does have a lot of energy and a lot of charisma. I'm not sure that that alone is going to sell the rap part of this song live completely, or otherwise shed the slightly bizarre energy about the entire thing. That said, it does make it a lot more likely than it otherwise would be. Perhaps most importantly, Armenia has the only 2 countries that gave them 12 points in the semi-final last year in with them this year as well. Those are Israel and Georgia. While 12s from those countries do look unlikely this year, it will give them a big boost. We're going to have a look at the effect of voting allies for all of the songs once we've introduced
that's
each
interesting.
of them.
I love
Make sure to
that.
stay tuned for that.
The
The next
voting
contender to
allies.
introduce here is Denmark, in the form of Sissal with her song
I love the
Hallucination.
song. What's this whole point that they love Insta Live? Like most
Bringer of
self-aware
chaos, loves an
participant.
install, most self-aware participant.
Oh, yeah, I love the song. It's just the performance is like
This is
lacking
the first
for
of
me.
2 woman-led pop songs in this video, and it's probably the one I listen to the most. It's also absolute kryptonite for anyone who loved Je ne sais quoi by Hera Björk. That song finished 3rd in its semi-final in 2010, and if we were in Eurovision 2010 now, Sissal would probably be looking at a similar result. This may be a scary thing to say to a certain group of Eurofans, but it is in fact not
the festival. There was a song one of one that I liked. She didn't pass through.
Oh, Clara?
Clara,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah,
remember that.
yeah. That this song kind of gives me this vibe a little bit, so that's why I'm kind of like rooting for this song. But I need elevation in the performance.
2010 anymore. Tastes have moved on a little bit since then. Luckily for Sissal, the danger of this sounding dated is offset to an extent by the fact that this is a pretty strong example of this style, and it's performed really well too. Another factor in Sissal's favour is that she has essentially adopted a PR approach for the contest of maximum chaos. This has included increasingly unhinged Instagram streams with other participants, posting TikToks ostensibly about her nails but clearly with another focus, and roasting herself, her own staging, and her own broadcaster.
Yes, girl, give us absolutely nothing.
It is actually very
She's
helpful
funny.
to her as well that she's self-aware
At
about
least she's
what the staging was
self-aware.
like at
That
the
is
national final, because
right.
as she
Thank
knows and
you.
agrees, it
Thank
really
you.
wasn't good. Basically everything about it needed changing. Whether
Trying
it
to tell
was
us
the
something different, you know. I don't like that. I wish
floor she's
also
walking on for no-
if she's listening, I want like a better catsuit.
reason, the wind machine blowing hair into her face, or the leotard that really doesn't flatter her. This needed a
Yes,
rethink from
thank
the ground
you.
up, and it's really
Thank
good that she
you.
knew
You
that
see,
too.
it
At the same
matters.
time, we're going to struggle to shake off the fact that this is simply something that's been done at Eurovision many times before. While that isn't a fatal challenge, it raises the bar on every single front. That's because you're not just competing against the people who are in the semi-final with you, you're going to be compared against the great and most famous examples of this kind of music from contests in the past. I mentioned Hera Björk as an example of this done well, but there are just as many examples of it going badly wrong. I'm looking at you, Cascada. To be honest, I'm kind of not surprised that it was Germany that was the one who really screwed it up. With this kind of music, you also run the risk of being seen as a kind of Sweden light. And if everyone turns around and starts comparing you to the likes of Lorraine, all of a sudden you're in massive trouble. All of this in mind, I don't want to oversell it as a factor, because ultimately, if people enjoy the song,
I
they're
did
going to
that
vote for it.
too because I was just thinking of Clara. Like that's the only song that reminds me of Clara that's still in the competition.
The best way to ensure that is by delivering a great live performance. Sissal has done that at pre-parties so far, and it's no surprise that her odds improved after Eurovision in concert last weekend. There are some building blocks here, and things do seem to be coming
Really, we didn't watch her. I felt like her performance
same.
wasn't that good. Not like vocally. Vocally is fine.
Yeah, it's
Just
not the
the-
problem vocally. It's just the
Oh no, wait, wasn't I was saying about her too that she was out of breath? Wasn't that her? I was.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
You did.
slow down. I don't
You're-
know.
you're-
I don't know
yeah.
how did improve.
together and going in the right direction. For Sissal's sake, I hope that continues. Next, we're going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of style of music. That's in the form of Latvia. This year, they've
First song in Latvian in 20 years, surprisingly catchy, got in by a whisker.
chosen Tautumeitas with their song Bo Man Laimi. This emerged from a pretty extraordinary three-way tie in the national final and has come straight into another equally massive
I feel like
slugfest
a
here.
song like that will pass. Because it's like traditional, it gives Latvia, it just needs the votes from Lithuania.
I don't like it.
This is the most pure folk song of anything at the contest this year, and it's picked up the mantle
Yeah.
of Baltic folk music that
There's
was
not
laid
too
down
many
last
folk
year by
songs in this
Nendes Narkotikumides
competition.
Teemi Kulmidagi. No, I will never miss an opportunity to say that. This has a few things in its favour and a few things holding it back. The biggest mark in its favour is that both visually and musically, this is totally distinct, not just from anything in the semi-final, but from anything else in the contest this year. If folk is your thing, you're probably going to enjoy this, and if you don't enjoy it, then tough luck, because there's nothing else that's going to fill your cup on this
Yeah.
one. This is a risk and reward that's quite difficult to balance
Yeah.
out. You want something that is
agree.
distinct and unique enough to really stand out, and in this case, this absolutely does. But at the same time, you need to simultaneously maintain enough accessibility that you have a wide enough base of people who are willing to pick up their phone and vote for it. This is especially difficult for folk music because it has a narrower audience than, for example, a pop song. For me personally, and I will admit my bias as someone who does really enjoy folk music, I love this. I think the instrumentation is really beautiful, and I think that the singers' voices are absolutely stunning. I don't know how much the wider European public are going to agree with me, though. In particular, the sections of this that have really intricate harmonies and rhythms start sounding muddy immediately if anything is even ever so slightly out of sync. That means you have a much thinner margin of error than some of the other songs that I'm talking about in this video. What
That's
I really fear
true.
is if it doesn't come together live, it'll lose
There's a lot of harmony and synchronization in that song.
Ah,
And I feel like
that's so risky.
when we did the pre-party.
It was a little out of sync.
It's kind of, it's because it sounded just
The
like
sound was not
It
good.
just didn't sound good at all.
Use its potential impact and fall well away from qualification as a result. I am influenced here by a similar situation with Tulia from Poland in 2019, not in the senses of the performance, but of the style of music. They finished 11th in the semi-final overall and missed out on the final by a whisker. That said, you could maybe look to some more positive examples as well, such as Vesna from the Czech Republic in 2023, although in my opinion that was a much stronger song. We also should remember, of course, that Latvia did qualify last year when absolutely nobody expected them to. Next up is a song that we've covered on this channel before, and that is Serbia. For them, it's
Standard Balkan ballad. Once Montenegro's nachos. A little dull.
Prince with his song Mila. There is a full video on this channel about the cloud of controversy from which this entry emerged this year. In the midst of that controversy and rigging and government corruption, we got this. A pretty uninteresting Balkan ballad that fell out of fashion at the contest many years ago. We've talked about this at length, so I'm going to keep it brief here. Prince is a very good singer, and there is genuinely still an audience for this kind of song, especially among diaspora communities.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
feel
what
like this would like the the classic Eurovision watchers like from back in the day would appreciate a song like that.
Yeah, it definitely gives back in the day for sure.
this its big lifeline. It does also have a potential problem in this regard, but we'll get onto that in a minute. The thing that really brings this down is that it's just quite kitsch, not really remarkable as a song, and as a result, it's not hugely memorable either. In addition to that, this kind of music was much more successful in the contest when it had more Balkan countries in the contest to respond to it. We have no North Macedonia and no Bosnia and no Bulgaria now. Those are three big potential markets for which this cannot access. This massively compromises its starting position in terms of how many points it can count on for sure. In his favor, he does have the king of all Balkan ballads, Zeljko Joksimovic, working with him on the revamp, and he does have a decent running order spot, at least on paper. That said, there are some complications to that too as well. We are going to come to that in a moment. For now though, Prince is on pretty unsteady ground. Our final contender here is another one that we've talked about at length on this channel before, and that's Ireland. For them, it's Emmy.
Burns into your brain, begging
Yes.
for a Nightcore remix, loves Norwich for some reason. Where is Norwich?
And she's representing them with her song, Like a Party.
I think it's a song to pass.
I think so.
At the time of filming, this is the song that the bookmakers have marginally in the top 10 to qualify. As well as that, there are a couple of statistical models out there that both have this qualifying too. Gabe from the future here, it was actually only
Wait,
one.
what did it say, Lithuania? What position?
What do we have? 7th? It's 7 here as well.
Wow.
Model. After Irish Eurosong, which of course I went to, and there's a full video about that on this channel, I was generally pretty optimistic about Emmy's chances at the contest. While I do think there's still a really good chance of this making it to the final, my optimism has cooled a little bit since then. The fundamental quality of the song hasn't changed here, it's more the factors around it that have led me to be a little bit unsure about what we're going to get. One thing that's definitely in their favour is that this has the catchiest hook, not just of these 5 songs, but possibly of the entire show. Unfortunately for now, the main issue is Emmy's performance. This has, like with some other songs, become clearer in the last couple of weeks thanks to the pre-parties. I'm not worried about her vocal, which seems to be mostly fine, but I do fear that she's struggling to fill the stage slightly. As a result, she's not fully selling the song. This is probably at least partly nerves, and that is naturally going to make you deliver a less charismatic performance. I just really hope that as we approach the contest, that starts to fade away. This is so important in this case because you cannot sell a song like this without being 100% confident.
Definitely,
if you show
this
any
is
doubt
like a
in
party, you have to give party vibes.
the message
Definitely.
or the slightly comic nature of it, then people just won't connect. In addition to that, the visuals really need to change up too, because the graphic design we've seen so far at both Eurosong and at Eurovision in concert just isn't at the level it needs to be for Eurovision. I have a bit of personal investment in this one, to be honest, having seen Emmy get selected and bought her and her brother their first ever shots of Baby Guinness. For that reason, I'm glad to be able to at least finish on a positive here, and that is really re-emphasizing the fact that the hook of this song is just so catchy. You really can't underestimate the effect that that alone will have. And if this burns into people's brains enough, then that alone could raise it above all the rest of the songs
It's like
in this
one
video.
of those novelty songs that I see that's
It
gonna
is.
last the test of time.
It is, yeah.
You know, even if the performance doesn't quite come together. That alone is probably why this is the one sitting at 10th in the odds at the moment. With that, we've laid out the 5 songs, and we're going to need to dig a little bit deeper to try and work out which of them is going to qualify. There is a wild card here, which is that if Luxembourg slips up badly, it could allow 2 of these through. Or if all of them are terrible at the show, it could open a door for Montenegro. But given what we've already seen, I'm not seeing that as particularly
don't see
likely.
that.
What we're we're going to do now is we are going to try and plot a path to the final by trying to work out where the points would come from. To set out some parameters, I'm operating on the assumption here that you're going to need 40 to 45 points to qualify. That's where we were for both semi-finals in 2024, and in one semi-final in 2023, 10th place qualified with 37. In semi-final 2 in 2023, the bar was way higher, because the 10th placed song got 74 points. But that's an outlier, and when you have 14 songs that are competitive for the final, you're not likely to end up in a position like this. The first thing we're going to look at is the reliable friends, the countries that each of these acts can rely on to give them a good amount of points in every case. To try and avoid this effect being too strong, the contest does split the countries into pots based on past voting patterns, but it still varies a lot based on who from your pot is in your semi-final with you. A good example of this
How does that work? I don't know nothing about these pots. First time hearing it. Interesting. Okay.
is last year, where Serbia, Slovenia, and Croatia, being in the same pot, massively benefited all of them. Serbia got 22 points from Croatia and Slovenia got 20 points from Croatia and Serbia. That effect alone is probably why these two qualified and Australia couldn't nip in between the two of them. On the flip side, you also have Armenia and Azerbaijan in the same pot. They would not want to be drawn in a semi-final together because there's no chance of them giving each other points. In this particular case, Armenia is actually a pretty big winner. That's because they have both Georgia and Israel in the semi-final. Those were the only two countries that gave them 12 points in the semi-final last year. They're probably not going to get 24 combined from these two, but they might get a decent haul that gives them a head start. Most of the other songs here have reasons to be optimistic too. Serbia is probably a nailed-on 12 points from Montenegro, or at the very least 8 or 10. That said, they'll be really regretting that they've gotten Austria when they could have had Slovenia or Croatia. There are some silver linings here though, because Austria does still give Serbia points fairly regularly. They have Germany there too, which was a decent friend of theirs in the semi-final last year, and the rest of the world vote in the last 2 years in the semi-finals has always given points to Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia. Latvia is in a similar, if slightly weaker position. That's because they do have one big advantage in the form of Lithuania. This is their closest linguistic and cultural match. Unfortunately, they could have had Estonia as well, but they don't.
I don't know. Latvia didn't get Lithuania points
It's
last
revenge,
time,
it's revenge
so
season.
I think Lithuania need to step up and give Latvia 0 points.
That is probably
So
an 8 or a 10 loss. Ireland have a few
Lithuania will give points to out of the ones
Anybody
remaining.
but Latvia.
reasons to be optimistic as well. Firstly, that's because they have their biggest televote friend in the form of the UK voting in this semi-final. Outside of that, they would have really wanted Australia as well, and Australia is what they got. Other than that, there's only one other natural friend for this, and that is Norway. That's because Emmy is Norwegian. Unfortunately for them, Norway is in the other semi-final. That said, having two friendly countries is a pretty good start. Another song that is going to suffer from the absence of Norway is Denmark. But the biggest blow here is not having Sweden. When you look at this pot, getting Finland and Australia.
Wow, it's so interesting how they decide on these pots.
What are these spots like?
How I understand it is that okay, so we have first semifinals and then second semifinals. Who's most likely to be in the bottom, and then who will give their points to who?
But so only these pots can vote for one another?
I guess I don't know.
I don't get
I'm
it.
just guessing.
Australia would probably be their last choice. On this front, the draw has basically done Sisal no favours whatsoever. When you take the effects of cultural and friendly voting into account, it's clear that Sisal is going to have to perform significantly better in general than
from the first semifinals, we can only pick how many or eliminate 10.
10
So the
advance.
bottom. So then there's a bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So from that bottom, how is it selected? Only how many will pass from
Nobody.
the bottom?
Nobody.
All of them won't pass.
Yeah, 10 will pass.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how are they selecting these?
I don't know
spots?
what are these pots.
the rest of the songs here in order to qualify. Next, I want to take a look at the running order. This is nowhere near as important in the semi-finals as it is in the finals, but it's still worth a mention. 3 of these 5 songs actually follow each other in a direct run from position 3 to position 5. I would say this is a decent enough draw for all of them. They stand out stylistically from each other and from the songs that are at either end. For that reason, it's probably roughly a net neutral effect. Denmark, on the other hand, finally has something to celebrate here. They have the strongest running order slot that they could have possibly asked for. They have the weakest song in the semi-final in the form of Georgia directly before them. In addition to that, they have another ballad, although a very strong one, immediately after in the form of the Czechs. What this means is that Sisal will really have the opportunity to shine, and it opens the door for her to get those extra points that she needs. The final one is the most difficult to judge, and that is Serbia. On paper, performing second to last is fantastic, and the best slot you could ask for. That said, that impression changes quite a lot when you look at what is next to them.
Finland
To be
is
blunt, they have the 2
last.
songs that I expect to finish first and second in the semi-final,
Yeah,
immediately
Germany's
before
gonna
and
be
immediately
strong.
after them in the
Finland's
form
gonna
of
be
Israel and
strong.
Finland. I don't really know in which order those two are going to be, but I'm
Germany's
pretty sure they're going to be at the top.
Germany is not getting votes. They're just like just a performance. not non-voted.
Being in that sandwich is a great way for everyone to forget that you exist. Because of that, this running order is probably overall a net negative for them. The next factor to mention is the effect of songs that are in direct competition for the same voters with these 5. Armenia and Latvia look really good in this respect because there is nothing that approaches their style of music in the rest of the show. The same can't be said for Denmark and Ireland. While these two songs are quite different styles of pop, both of them are competing for voters with Erika Vikman, Mirjana Conte, and Gojo, and that makes things significantly more difficult for both of them. There is a silver lining here for Ireland. That is that the Nightcore style of this is genuinely different to everything else we have in the show. That might mobilize a pool of voters that those other songs can't access. The big loser, though, in this respect is Serbia. Serbia and Montenegro are competing for the same voters, including in the diasporas, with very similar styles of songs. That could prove fatal to both of their chances. Finally, you have a pure televote appeal. What is going to be memorable and what makes
He's right about that. They would just end up, instead of getting all the votes for one country if only one was available, now they're just basically going to split that in half. And there's only such limited amount of listeners for that type of music, and now we're cutting that in half.
people want to pick up their phones and vote. This is probably the most subjective part of this, and the part where we basically have to just use our own judgment. Given how catchy Ireland's song is, that is where I think the most raw potential is. That's not to say that other songs won't have potential too. I think Denmark and Armenia have a strong shot here, and Armenia, being in its own lane with no other rock songs, could really excel as well. Latvia will have a small but hopefully quite passionate segment of fans, which could put them in that conversation as well. Finally, Serbia, as I mentioned, is facing a bit of a crisis here, as well as just not being that interesting or new of a song. Because of that, it's fishing in a small pond with a spoiler in the form of Montenegro, making everything twice as difficult. I have thrown a lot of factors out on the table there very quickly, which illustrates how close it's going to be, and how every single one of these songs has an argument to say that it will qualify. That said, I'm going to quickly summarize each one just to try and make it make a little bit more sense. So here is how each of these songs could make it to the grand final. For Armenia, it's by picking up rock-aligned voters and springboarding from two strong televoting allies in the form of Georgia and Israel. For Serbia, it's getting a 12 points from Montenegro, as well as decent results in Germany, Austria, and the rest of the world. That
Do you
would leave
think
them
Montenegro would give points to Serbia if they're direct competition?
I think so. They're neighbors. I think so. I think they would.
only needing to pick up scraps from the rest of the participating countries, but they really, really must deliver strong results in those 4 I just mentioned. For Denmark, the challenge is a little different. This is a cleanly produced pop song, so it has really broad appeal. That said, it needs to be picking up points almost everywhere. 2s, 3s, and 4s. Let's not forget, if you pick up 3 points on average from every voter in this semi-final, you'd end up with almost 60, and that would see you through comfortably. For Latvia, it's a 10 or a 12 from Lithuania, and nothing else will do here. That needs to be combined with viewers tuning in who are favorable to folk music, and then delivering for them in a big...
really show up. You say no. Usually what you say, they do opposite. So Lithuania will be
For
showing
Ireland,
up for
it's a
Latvia.
similar path to Denmark. They need low to medium scores from a broad base of countries. That said, the bonus of the UK and Australia both being in this semi makes that job a little bit easier. Now we've reached this point, I think it's only fair for me to give you a prediction in order of likelihood of who I think is going to qualify. I'm going to do that from the least likely to the most. That least likely this year, I think, is Serbia, purely down to that lack of appeal more generally, and the fact they're splitting votes with Montenegro. I think Latvia is the second least likely, Denmark in the middle, Armenia is second, and finally, Ireland is the most. That's delivered on the back of that really catchy hook I was talking about.
Okay. I think a solid prediction. I think I would kind of say Ireland first, then Armenia. He has Armenia and Denmark. Honestly, for me, those 2 spots are like a toss-up. Just like a tie, whichever I had no. They both have a chance. They both have a case. It's a toss-up. Yeah. So and then the bottom 2, I agree with him too. I think that's a solid prediction.
That's fair.
Earlier. I could be proved totally wrong or totally right on this front. But no matter what happens, I will come back and own this, and we will talk about this after the shows take place. For now, though, we have reached the end of our
I
review
want to see what certain countries vote for who.
of what is shaping up to be a photo finish for that final place in the final. Thank you so much for watching, as always.
Cool, interesting video. He did a good job analyzing it.
Can I see the comments, please?
The thumbnail really makes it look like Gabe is also one of the 5 entries. Ooh. I like how the thumbnail implies that Gabe will be representing Latvia and Armenia, obviously. If I lose Denmark, Montenegro, and Latvia all in the same semifinal, I'm gonna end up on the news.
Wow. I wonder what this person is from.
I mean, that is looking pretty likely, though. Well, start picking your outfit for the news, because that's definitely
I guess
happening.
will that make way for Lithuania? Because I would think this person
Lithuania is predicted on 7, so it seems like fairly comfortably. I really, really want Latvia to qualify. It's not even my top 10, but it checks all my personal boxes of a great Eurovision song. Great Eurovision song, maybe, but I don't know. It's
A lot of people are upset for if Latvia doesn't make it.
I don't know.
Wow. Okay. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.